Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. And don't forget to hit the like button if you're liking this kind of video. Today we'll be checking out Baldurs Gate 3. Although it's early access and definitely not finished, Larian Studios has managed to bring a beloved franchise from the grasps of time and death and revitalized it for modern times. This will just be an impression video since I don't believe it's fair to give the game a review at this moment. Having completed the early access and pumped close to 60 hours exploring every nook and cranny, even some I was clearly not supposed to find, I have fallen in love with Baldurs Gate 3. Yes, it's short, buggy as hell, and you can only get your companions and yourself to level 4. But underneath all this flash and pizzazz are some of the best representation of D&D mechanics in a video game I have ever seen. Also, arming yourself with the knowledge that this is early access and this is alpha gameplay, you will find bugs, crashes, and all other sorts of issues during your gameplay. You can literally see the diamond sticking out of the mud, and it's huge and beautiful. Conversations, quests, and even encounters are decided at the roll of a die. Yes, you can manipulate the outcome by increasing your advantage through attributes, skills, or spells, but you're still at the mercy of the roll. The world is bright and vivid, and although at times a pain to explore, some of the best moments come from random encounters you just stumble upon while exploring Faerun. Graphically, the game in motion is gorgeous, and even the random conversation with vendors and other NPCs are completely voiced and acted out in a way that clearly shows love is being poured into this game. But enough of that. Let's take a look at all the good this game has to offer, and in my opinion, some of the bad it has to overcome. The first thing you'll notice if you're like me is, wow, this game looks a lot like one of Larian Studios' other franchise, Divinity. From the character models to the UI to even the world environment. But right away, even during character creation, which has had a huge upgrade, you will see this is no longer Divinity. You have the choice of 8 races and multiple sub-races, ranging from elves, humans, tieflings, and dwarves, as well as 6 starting classes to pick from, which all seem to be your classic affair. Fighter, cleric, ranger, rogue, warlock, and wizard. Sprinkle in a dozen or so hairstyles, tattoos, makeup, and other customization options. You can let your imagination go wild and create a truly unique looking character. The classes, cantrips, races, and spells are a lot to take in for someone who has never played D&D, a past Baldur's Gate, or even anyone new to the genre. The good thing is, the game wants to teach you. It wants you to experiment, and in essence, it wants you to fail. But that's a good thing, because when you succeed or start to understand it all, it's like the sun parting the clouds. Your imagination runs wild with all the possibilities you can create with your spells, your environment, and your cantrips. You'll be teleporting, jumping, ambushing, and shoving enemies off ledges faster than you think. Plus, the game is littered with combat encounters, so you have plenty of time to learn and try new stuff out. Speaking of combat, I think early sneak peeks of this game had people worried, including myself, that going from the classic real-time with pause combat to turn-based was a huge issue. And this is where I start to see some of the bad. Some encounters have so many enemies, the combat feels tedious and drawn out. The worst part is that I'm a huge fan of turn-based combat, so I was genuinely delighted to hear this change was coming. But because this game is tied to the D&D rule set, it makes combat encounters take close to 30 minutes for even a small skirmish. There is nothing more aggravating on the planet than having one enemy left and you go through multiple rounds of your companions and your character just missing over and over again. Even at a 95% hit chance. But that's XCOM, baby. This led me to approach the game in a different way, which is good or bad depending on how you look at it. Sure, I was approaching obvious combat encounters differently, or just avoiding them altogether. But I feel the combat should be the star here. It sure as hell was in Divinity, where I couldn't wait to get to the next encounter. I don't know if they could go back to real-time with pause combat this late into development, but they could implement faster movement and attack animations, but there definitely needs to be something done to speed the combat up. If not, at least, let me see the roll of the die in combat like we get in conversations, so I can see at least how my attack got calculated. Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity 2 did a great job of this by having both options available eventually. Maybe Larian could add something like this. As for the bad though, that's it. It's a very short list for me, because the rest of the game is a blast. Let's take a look at what I believe is the best part of Baldur's Gate 3. The story and exploration. Yes, Baldur's Gate 3 is a direct sequel, but it takes place 100 years after the events of Baldur's Gate 2, so you don't need to play the other games to understand what's going on. The D&D lore is incredibly deep, and the story is interesting enough to keep you engaged all the way to the end. One of the best parts was realizing that every single NPC conversation was completely voice acted and had a fleshed out cinematic dialogue. This truly shows how much love is being poured into the game. The way even some mundane conversations can branch out at the mercy of a dice roll is super engaging. In other games, when I would fail a conversation check, I would just save scum and roll back the conversation to achieve the outcome I wanted. But in this game, I was genuinely excited to see all the different resolutions and outcomes I could come across. Plus, if you save scum, you're still at the mercy of a die roll, so there's no guarantee it will work even with multiple tries. Honestly though, this is the best part of Baldur's Gate 3, because you literally never know what's going to happen, and the encounter can play out a dozen different ways. This is not only what D&D is truly about, but what Baldur's Gate is about, and the RPG genre as a whole. It takes the create your own adventure concept and turns it up to 11. The level design is the most obvious place where the game still feels like Divinity. Yes, they added verticality, which is a great addition, but you still have your standard oil puddles, poison clouds, and pools of water to play with. We still have our secret areas to get to by jumping or teleporting, and some that are either not finished or it's just a bugged out area. It's hard to tell at this point. Some of the combat encounters though, I found way too easy to cheese. There's nothing like standing at the top of a ladder and continuously shoving the enemy off of it. While others, I found put you at a great disadvantage where there is no option other than death or save scumming. So there's still some optimization to be made here. The game is clearly in early access, and it makes sure you don't forget it either. From the watermark in the corner of the cinematics, the placeholder text for cinematics that aren't finished, the constant crashes, and yes, 2 blue screens, which was confusing as hell. But when it works, man, it works. The attention to detail and lore, the fluidness and synergy of spells and companions, the immersion of every NPC having voiced cinematic dialogue, the randomness of quests and encounters, and a story that leaves you wanting more. I personally cannot wait to get my hands on the final project, and I'm super glad I opted in and ponied up the cash to support Larian Studios in developing this game. Should you pick this up though? Well, that depends. Are you okay with an unfinished project that constantly crashes, but is honestly one of the most enjoyable RPGs on the market right now, while also supporting a great studio and making sure Baldur's Gate 3 lives up to its name? Then hell yeah, pick this up. You will not regret it. If you'd rather wait for the game to be completely finished and polished, that's fine too. Sadly, I didn't have enough time to even tinker with the multiplayer, but I will tackle that in my next video, I promise. I also wanted to make some videos on class builds and guides, but considering you can only get to level 4, and with obviously spells, subclasses, and other stuff that's clearly missing, it's really hard to be creative. So a lot of those guides would be just basic, which is fine, but I would like to wait until the game is fully released to truly let those juices flow. But if you would like to see those kind of videos, please let me know in the comments below. And well, that's it for my impressions on Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you for hanging out until the end of the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content, and don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video. And as always, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch.